Hello guys, welcome back to So That's Gaming. We're going to finish this NESPi case setup. So you're going to need a few things. You're going to need an SD card and a memory card reader for the SD card. Obviously you're going to need your NESPi case here. And you're going to need a keyboard and a controller of some kind plugged in so you can control your NESPi. Now we're also going to need to download a few files. Links will be in the description. So let's get started. We'll give you a quick rundown of the things that you're going to download here. Obviously, there's a couple things for the NESPi specifically that you're going to need. One of the things you can get is this firmware here that will allow you to boot from the SSD instead of the micro SD card. Now, this comes with two different firmwares, one to boot from SSD and the other one to restore it back to the SD card. Also, we're going to need this script here. It's actually really a command that we're going to have to run in order to get it installed, but more on that later. And then if you want, you can download the instructions if the instructions were missing from yours, but ours is already assembled, so we're not going to need that. So next we're going to need RetroPie. You can go to retropie.org.uk download, and you can download the image here, or alternatively you can go to raspberrypi.org, go to software, and you can choose their imager. And well, we're going to get this anyways, but if you don't want to use their imager and you want to download just the RetroPie and image it yourself, you can use a program called Win32 Disk Imager, and this will flash the image for RetroPie onto your SD card. We're not going to use that, so making sure we're going to flash to the correct one. Our USB drive is in drive F, and so we're going to run this RetroPie OS Imager, which has already been downloaded. So let me go and launch that real quick, and we'll show you what that looks like. Here we are. This is what the Imager looks like. And so from here you can choose your OS. So you can actually use this program to download the current available version of RetroPie. But we're not going to do that since we already downloaded it. No use re-downloading it. So we can choose custom, and then we'll just point this to the correct image file, which is right here. I've already extracted it. You don't need to do that. It'll do it itself. I'm going to click open, and then we're going to choose our SD card. In this case, mine's USB drive F right here. And we're going to click write. We're going to let that run. It's going to let you know it's going to format, all that good stuff. And this will take just a moment. Alright, after it's done writing, it's going to run through a verification process to make sure the image was flashed correctly to the SD card. And I know it's already been a couple minutes, but this next part goes much faster than the writing process. We'll just let this finish. Alright, now it's just finalizing, and we'll be done with our SD card. We'll be able to go ahead and remove it and put it into our Raspberry Pi. Alright, so on a Raspberry Pi, well, our NESPi, the side where it's got the micro SD card, the contacts need to go up, towards the top. That way you put it in the right way. And that's it for our SD card. Now going back to the computer, we're going to show you something else we're going to be working with. This drive D is, this will be easier if you go and remove the top off of your Raspberry Pi, or when you're assembling, don't even bother screwing it together until this whole process is done. So we're going to be plugging this directly into our computer so that we can get it set up for future steps. So plugging that back in here. Alright, so the only thing we're going to do, we're going to create a folder called RetroPie-mount. And that's it. What this will do, this will tell your the software, the RetroPie, to when it's plugged in, you'll see that folder, and it'll set up the entire folder structure in this subfolder on this SSD. So for now, let's go ahead and power up. Let's unplug this, because that's pretty much, we're done with that. We'll plug that in a moment. Now we're going to go to the Raspberry Pi and hit the power button, assuming you have your keyboard, your controller, your HDMI input, and your power. Hitting the power button, it should go ahead and start booting for the very first time. There it is. Give it just a second. Now, since this is the first time that this SD card has been run, it's got to go through a whole deal. It's got to like resize and set everything up. But let it just run. It'll take it just a moment. Alright, so once it gets done, it's going to prompt you, welcome. You got to make sure your controller is turned on, or if you have it plugged in via USB cable, make sure it's plugged in. And we're just going to press and hold the button until it detects your controller. And then it's going to run you through all the keys. So just one by one, just go ahead and set everything up. Left, down, left, right. Start, select A, B, X, Y, left, and right. Now, that's all the buttons I have on this controller. So for the rest of them, if you want to skip them, you just press and hold throughout the rest of these till we get to the bottom. Now your hotkey, make sure you select a hotkey. This will allow you to do button combinations that allow you to back out of a game and other features. I don't know what the other ones are. I haven't used them, but the most important one is to be able to exit the game without having to reboot your Pi every time. So in this case, I'm going to use the select button, and then I'll hit OK. So right now, as you can see, where's all my systems? Well, you're not going to see any systems until you actually get some ROMs, your backups, copied over to the system. And since all the cores for all the systems are already pre-installed, it'll only show them if there's a ROM available. First thing we got to do is we have to go through a configuration. And since we want internet, we got to go down here to Wi-Fi. And you're going to need a keyboard for this. And this right here is telling you that it can't use it until you set your localization options. So we're going to go and click yes and go over here. And localization options need to be set by choosing system options. Oh, right, keyboard. Okay. We'll choose system options here. And we're going to select the wireless LAN. It's going to tell you what you need to set up your system. So I'm just going to hit the page down button until we get all the way down here, and then we're going to choose United States. Now the Wi-Fi LAN country has been set. We can hit OK, and I'm not going to do this part, so we're just going to hit cancel, and we're going to go back to finish. And in order to get these changes to effect, it will need to reboot. So we're going to click yes. Alright, once it comes back up, we have to go back to configuration, and we're going to go back to RetroPie config, because we're going to have to enable a feature that will allow us to make changes to it without having to use this interface. So we're going to go down here to interface options, and we're going to choose the second option, which is SSH, and we're going to choose to enable that. This should not require a reboot. If it does, well, so be it. Oh, great. So now we're going to go down here to Wi-Fi, and we're going to get connected to our wireless network, unless, of course, you have it connected via network cable. This, you can skip this step. Using your keyboard, I'm going to check your desired network and enter its passphrase if you have one. Hit OK twice, and there we are. We are connected. So we're done with this. It's just doing all kinds of crazy stuff right now. Well, I'm not sure what's going on. So we ignore that. If you just move over, you can click exit. So now that we're connected, let's go ahead and run through our RetroPie setup. I like to run this just in case everything's not properly set up the first time around. Now we still have not connected out the top portion of the NESPi case with our SSD. Alright, Now that that's part done, what we're going to do, we're just going to do a basic install. And we're going to let this run. It's going to install all the necessary cores for, you know, a core is basically the information that RetroPie needs in order to run a specific game system. So this will take a couple minutes. We're going to let this run, and when it finishes, we'll come back. Alright, so once the setup is done, or the basic install is done, we'll bring you back here, and then we can go ahead and perform a reboot. And let that reboot and make sure everything is, you know, recognized and set up properly. Alright, now we're back up. So our next step, we're going to get our top portion. We're going to plug that back into one of the USB ports on the inside of the Pi, just like we did in the installation. And RetroPie is going to see this, and then we'll see that folder we created, the RetroPie-mount, and it's going to create an entire file structure, which I'll show using SSH. Oh, but before we do that, we have to enable, I almost forgot, we got to set up our script here. So this is the script we're going to run, this command right here. Now, you could use hit F4 on your keyboard, and then this will open up a script. But we're not going to do that because experimenting before, this little character right here, it's not an L and it's not an I. I think it's like a signature bracket, but for whatever reason, my keyboard doesn't want to type that character properly. So this is where another utility is going to come in handy. It's called Putty. This is Putty. So we're just going to enter our IP address that was assigned. Whoops. And then just hit enter, and then it's going to open up this. It's going to pop up a warning. You just hit yes, since we never connected this before, and it's going to open up this terminal window. The login is, username is Pi, password is Raspberry, and it'll bring you to this screen right here. Now, the easiest way to do this would be just to highlight this line from the safe shutdown script, copy it, and then coming over here back here to the window, if you just left click, it'll automatically paste, and then just hit enter. And what it's going to do is going to download and install that script. Alright, so the installation is done. Now the Pi is going to reboot yet again. Alright, here we are yet again. Now, let's go ahead and copy over a couple games. First, we're going to start by connecting this to our Pi, and then it will set up the file structure, and then I'll show you that. So, give me 1 second. Now, if you start by installing most of your games onto the SD card, plug in that instance. There is no indicator light that it's reading or writing to the SSD. You might want to wait a few minutes, let all that stuff copy, because initially copying that will basically copy all the contents off of your SD card onto the SSD. So now, as you see, there's still nothing going on here, but if we go to our computer and you open up another file manager or explorer, do / RetroPie, and here's everything. So these are all the folders for all your ROMs and everything else. The one thing I wasn't a fan of is the fact that it only gives you option for Mega Drive and not Genesis. That might be because of the way I downloaded the image. Now, if I had used a different image and I used like the drop-down menu from the Pi Imager, maybe that would say Genesis. I don't know. I'll have to explore that later on. You can do so yourself, though. So from here, I got a couple of my test ROMs from my backups. So we're just going to copy those over. Just to, actually, we don't need to open every folder here. Now, naturally, this process would go quicker if I connected the drive right back to my computer. But for the sake of simplicity and getting things done quickly, we'll just do it this way. And just a couple of these real quick here. There we are. that's done. So now if we go ahead and go back to our Pi that's still running in the background, where are my games? Well, if you hit the start button, and you go down to quit, you can choose to either restart, shut down the system. But if you choose restart emulation station, it will go ahead and relaunch it, and it'll rescan all of your systems. So just like that, all of our systems now show up, and they are all installed on our SSD. So just a quick showing off here. Now, there's no artwork. Now that can be fixed as well. So if we go back and hit the start button again, we can choose our scraper, and this you can change the different scraper, whatever, but leaving it on games DB, our database, you can click scrape now, and what it's going to do, it's going to scan all the games that we have installed, and it's going to look for matching artwork. And you can choose the one you want based on what the game is currently being shown. So I'm going to select that, and tennis, and we're just going to run through all these. Alright, so now that all the scraping is done, if you go back to any of your systems, you'll see that there's now artwork for all of your games. And let's go ahead and test one real quick. Let's go ahead and test Sonic the Hedgehog. Why not? And here we are, Sonic the Hedgehog. And if you hold down select and start, it will take you back to the previous screen, and you can go back and select a different game. So now if we hit our power button, since we have that safe script installed, this is what it will do now instead of just shutting off. It'll run through a script and properly shut it down. That way you don't get any of that nasty corruption, and you won't have to start this whole process all over again. So there you go. I hope you found this helpful. If you have any questions, comments, opinions, etc., leave those in the comment section below. If you haven't already done so, be sure to click that subscribe button. Get subscribed, keep coming back for more gaming content. And if you want to be part of that notification squad, click that little bell icon. That way you won't miss another video in the future. Thanks again for watching. We'll see you next time.